Well, hello everybody, my name's Louise Savage. Welcome back to my channel if you're a returning subscriber, visitor, viewer, and a very warm welcome as well if it's the first time that you have watched this musing slash rambling slash whatever. Anyway, I am in a state of peak excitement because I'm a teacher, I've broken up for the summer holidays, I'm feeling very chilled. And obviously this is a great time for reading, although I've been quite busy. But next week I am off to South America. I know, I'm so excited. I'm going for 15 days and obviously that involves a very long flight, over 12.5 hours I think, and a lot of travelling, a lot of adventures I'm going to have while I'm there. I'm going up to the Andes, I'm going down to the Amazon, it's all happening. But nevertheless, I will need to read. And this would not be my, it's probably only the third or fourth time I've done anything like this in my entire life. So, I'm hoping that I'll be busy doing stuff. But nevertheless, there will be some downtime. I can read for very short periods when I'm in a coach or a minibus or something like that, or train or whatever it might be. So I'm really hoping that I do get some reading done, and I'll definitely need some reading for those long flights. So I've been having a think about, how on earth do you go about choosing what you're going to read on holiday? Now, I'm extremely lucky because I've got very well-stocked bookshelves in my lovely library here. So I haven't been out to a bookshop, I haven't done anything like that. I've just done an initial trawl of my shelves. And I've got a stack of, I haven't counted them, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. This is why I'm on the floor, by the way, because I've got a lot of books here and I find it a lot easier than juggling them on my knee and whatever when I'm talking to you. So anyway, so I'm down here on the floor grovelling with these 8 books, I think it's 8, that I have chosen. Now, there is no way that I can carry 8 books or intend to carry 8 books around with me. This is a starting point, and now I've got to whittle it down. And as I was sort of pulling these books off the shelves, it was actually yesterday evening, I was sort of having to think about why am I selecting these ones in particular? And I'm often going for chunky books because I want, and I found myself looking inside to look at the size of the font, because I don't want to be carrying around books that I'm going to read in an hour. There's no point in that when I'm going that far. I want to carry around books that are going to keep me going for hours. So most of these are quite lengthy. And I don't know why I do that, because it might be just as, weight sensitive. That's not the right word. But it might be just as good to take 2 shorter books. I don't know. But that's the way my little brain works. I also, as I'm pulling things off the shelves, I'm thinking, I want to take things that I know I'm going to enjoy, because what if I get 2 chapters in and it's rubbish? Do I carry on carrying it around with me? Do I leave it somewhere? Do I give it to somebody, having taken it to the other side of the world? So, there's those sorts of factors. So I've tended to go for, I realised I was pulling out writers either that I've read and enjoyed before, or the other way that I realised I was selecting was the fact that I'm probably going to try to whittle this down to only 3 books. Realistically, when I went to Jordan last year, I think I read a book and a half, if that. Now, that was a much shorter flight, but nevertheless, that should give me an indication. So I reckon 3 books maximum. That's painful. That hurts, and how silly, because it's not as if there won't be any books in the country I'm going to. Do you know what I mean? I'm sure that somewhere along the line, if I ran out of a book for, fellow travellers, I might be able to swap books with. So really it is a bit daft. You might be wondering why I'm not taking a Kindle. I do have one. I just find, for me, I used to use it an awful lot when I suffered from insomnia and also had eyesight problems. And I found it absolutely brilliant then, because I could stay in bed and read myself back to sleep without disturbing my husband. So I think they are amazing. But for me, I just love the whole tactile experience of holding a book, turning the pages, and also have books on my shelves that I can pick up and I like, oh, this has been to such and such a place with me. You know, this has travelled with me. So I also, I think, probably are taking them because I know they'll become part of my kind of souvenir of life, if you like. So the other thing is that it's no good choosing, for me anyway, it's no good choosing like 3 thrillers or 3 whatever. I need to choose carefully so I've got a real mix of genres and styles of writing and settings and characters, because I want to read 3 books that are really distinctive. So I'll talk you through what I've chosen, and probably I'm hoping that you're going to help me here indirectly, because as I talk through it will probably help me to make the decision of whittling down. I'll put my glasses on because I need to have a read. Now, Jane Smiley, I've read some of her books before and I really enjoy them. And this one I picked up secondhand. It's called The Greenlanders. It describes it on the front as impressive and haunting. So that sort of takes me. I like the painting on the front. It looks like a sort of painting from, I don't know, the 1500s, something like that, 1500s, Renaissance painting. Ah, here we go. So this one is set in the 14th century in Europe's most far-flung outpost, a land of glittering fjords, as the title would suggest, of course, Greenland. It's the story of one family, a proud landowner, Asgeir Gunnarsson, his daughter Margaret, whose willful independence leads her into passionate adultery and exile. Now that sounds really compelling. There's also a son who's questing knowledge, and it says Jane Smiley takes us into this world of farmers, priests and law speakers, of hunts and feasts. So this has got a real sort of historical twang to it. It's going to take me to a very different place from the place I'm travelling in, which actually I've decided I don't really want to read while I'm there. I want to concentrate on the South America that I'm seeing with my own eyes. I might well read lots of things when I get back, but while I'm there, I think, bizarrely, I probably want my reading to take me somewhere else. So that's one potential choice. Then I thought about the sort of binge reading I was talking about last week, and the idea of series, and this leapt off the shelf. Darkfire, CJ Sansom. So it's the second in the Shard Lake Mysteries series. Sorry, getting a lot of glare off the window there, lots of reflection, because it's got this lovely shiny cover. And so this would be lovely to pick up with Shard Lake again. Again, it's a real chunkster. You know, oh my goodness, it's got a family tree and a map in the front. The only issue I've got here is that this is historical fiction, and so is that one. So I don't know whether I could take both. So I've got to kind of somewhere weed and make a decision between those two. Then I've got The Shadow King by Maaza Mengiste. And this is set in Ethiopia in 1935. So that might be quite interesting to go to a different continent. Mussolini's army are looming. It's about an orphan. She's struggling to adapt to her new life as a maid. Her new employer is an officer in Haile Selassie's army. So I think this would be very, very interesting and very compelling, and much more contemporary European history than the other 2 books, and also set on a different continent. So this to me seems like it would be a good match for the other 2. It also has very tiny font, which often would put me off, but I'm thinking for its weight it's going to give me good value. So yeah, so I'm starting to spread them out on the floor now in a kind of, you know, should I, shan't I. So I've got the 2, the Smiley and the Samson side by side. I've got the Shadow King underneath. And then this is a book that I've been wanting to get to for ages, Pet by Catherine Chidgey. And I loved her book Remote Sympathy, which was a Women's Prize long-listed book. This one is quite different. That was set around a concentration camp in the Second World War, but this sounds a very different story indeed. So this one's New Zealand. It's the 1980s, so again it's more contemporary. It's got themes of racism, misogyny, Catholic oppression. It's being compared to things like Jean Brodie and The Go-Between. So what's the plot? Like every other girl in her class, 12-year-old Justine is drawn to her glamorous, charismatic new teacher and longs to be her pet. And now I'm thinking, I'm a teacher, I'm going on holiday, maybe not. Maybe not. Maybe I'm going to put this to one side and perhaps read this either before I go, because I've got a week, or when I get back. So that's good. That's made me sort of dismiss that for now. This one, The Prophets by Robert Jones Jr. Simon Savage, my son of Savage Reads, gave this to me. I know that he absolutely loved it a few years ago when it came out, and I still haven't got round to reading it. It's described as lyrical and rebellious. Well, I like that. I like a lyrical prose, and I like a bit of rebellion. It's about two enslaved young men on a deep south plantation. They find refuge in each other and a betrayal that threatens their existence. Ooh, we like that. Isaiah was Samuel's and Samuel was Isaiah's. That was the way it was since the beginning and the way it was to be until the end. That sounds really quite biblical, doesn't it, that prose? In the barn they tended to the animals but also to each other. When a fellow slave seeks to gain favour by preaching the master's gospel on the plantation, the slaves begin to turn on their own. Oh, wow. So this is like disrupting the harmony, in inverted commas, on the plantation. So I like the sound of that. And to me, that kind of sits side by side with The Shadow King. So I think it's going to be either or with those. And my legs are going dead now because I've got them tucked under me. Oh, goodness. So I'm going to sink even lower. Sorry, I'm vanishing off the screen. Okay. So next up is, again, a book I've been wanting to get to for absolutely ages. You'll notice that all of these are paperbacks for obvious reasons. This is Kololo Hill by Neema Shah, set in Uganda in 1972. Now, that for me is very interesting because this is kind of the dawn of my political awareness, I suppose. I remember all the issues around Uganda. A devastating decree is issued. All Ugandan Asians must leave the country in 90 days and never return. For Asha and Pran, married a matter of months, it means abandoning the family business that Pran has worked so hard to save. For his mother Jaya, it means saying goodbye to the house, the family home for decades. But the violence is escalating in Kampala and people are disappearing. Now, to me, this story sounds very current. I've still got visions in my head of the evacuation of Afghanistan very recently and all the political fallout from that. So even though it's the 1970s, I can kind of see its pertinence for today. I've just been reading a novel that is set in India, so the idea of the sort of Asian migration interests me quite a lot. But again, this is kind of in my mind, perhaps in that same sequence as The Shadow King and The Prophets. I've just put those parallel now on the floor. I'm getting somewhere. 2 more to go. So again, with that idea of binge reading, sequences, I've been really wanting to get back to The Cazalet Chronicles by Elizabeth Jane Howard. I read the first one, The Light Years, a few years ago when I was in Italy. This one's called Marking Time, and I think in this one, it's a family saga, and I think, yeah, it's 1939. So this centres on this family with a rather grand house in Sussex, and looks how the previous novel looks how the build-up to the war was affecting them or not, and also sort of laid the foundations for each of the characters. It's a big family, there's a lot of characters to get your head round. So the English family at war. The sunlit days of childish games and family meals are over as the shadows of war roll in and a new generation of Cazalets takes up the story. Louise, who dreams only of playing Hamlet, is brutally brought to the realisation that her parents have their own secrets, passions and yearnings. So lots of rites of passage, lots of young people coming to terms with the reality of the world, sadly. I feel like I really want to take this one with me. Again, because I think it's well, it's good value. It's very, very dense script. So, you know, I'll get, oh, it was good value as well. I only paid £1.80 from this, and it doesn't look like it's been read. So I think that one's going to go with me. And I think if that one goes with me, then I don't know if I want to take the Shadow King, because that's the 1930s as well. So I'm going to eliminate the Shadow King now from my choices. So that's quite good. I'm down to 5 on the floor and 1 to go. Now this, I read A.M. Holmes' May We Be Forgiven some years ago and absolutely adored it. It's very different to the 5 other books on the floor, because I suspect, I hope, one of the things I liked about A.M. Holmes' first book was the humour in it. I thought it was really a beautiful portrait of a man struggling with taking on board some children in his life. And it did make me laugh, but also it was really poignant and thoughtful. So this is a brave story of a lost man's reconnection with the world. It's being compared to Catch-22, which does appeal to me. Catcher in the Rye that doesn't. But Stephen King really likes it. That's his quote. The protagonist is somebody called Richard Novak, and he is a trader in stocks and shares working from his beautiful LA home. He never sees anybody other than his trainer, his housekeeper, and his nutritionist. He's obsessed with keeping fit. He eats low-carb food. He's so out of touch with his feelings that his life has slowed almost to a standstill. And then he has an attack of excruciating pain, ends up in a hospital, and befriends a donut shop owner called Anil. Now, I just love this idea of these, you know, some of the best fiction is where two people from very, very different worlds and very different, you know, experiences collide and something magical happens. So I am feeling like this might be something to smile about, grin about as I'm travelling around South America. So I think I'm getting somewhere, actually. I think I'm going to take the A.M. Holmes. I think I'm going to take the Elizabeth Jane Howard. And, oh, now I'm struggling. I think probably simply because it's the longest and thickest but not a particularly heavy book, I'm going to take Dark Fire. And do you know what? I'm going to plonk on top of there Kololo Hill, because I know I said I was only going to take 3, but I might have to take 4. I don't know. I'll have to stew on that, won't I? When it gets to the point where I'm packing my case, I will know. So I've got 1 in reserve, just in case I can't. I've got that extra little bit of space and that extra little bit of weight. Well, there we go. Anyway, thank you for helping me to, and it genuinely has been really helpful talking it through, actually. I wish I'd done this before. Helping me to sort of decide on which books I'm going to take on my adventure. I don't think my mind will change. It might do. You know, these things happen. It could. Do you know, if you can hear a buzzing, it's Simon Savage is trying to phone me. How rude, while I'm filming and talking to you, lovely lot. I shall phone him back later. I'm far too busy to talk to him right now. So anyway, yeah, thank you for that. And I hope that some of you are managing to go off on some jolly holidays. Please, you know, I'd love to know what you're packing and taking with you. But if you're holidaying from home, or if sadly you're working, I'm still very interested in your current reads. So please keep in touch, keep the ideas flowing. I just really so enjoy the chat and the comments, and it does influence my reading, which is really lovely. Anyway, take care everybody. Bye.